I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your feeder flash for Tuesday, May the 7th, where markets were all down pretty hard on Monday due to China trade fears. The talks have kind of broken down. It seems like the Chinese officials are kind of changing the rules midstream, and then the U.S. Guys called them on it, and we're not sure if we're going to get a deal done. They're still in negotiations technically, but we would have liked to have seen something happen, and maybe even something that had to do with the hogs or getting some protein over there. But heck of it is, China is not going to admit that their hog crisis is as bad as what reports have said it is, and also they don't care enough about their people to make protein available for them to purchase, and so we don't really know where we're at on that. But President Trump is threatening to raise their tariffs on many of the products that they ship over here up to 25%. That is kind of bringing them to their knees, and I don't think we need to worry. He'll out-trade them when the dust all settles. He'll end up on top. But nevertheless, your stock market was down. Most of your commodity markets were down. Of course, your cattle were down, and but the live cattle contracts did trade kind of funny. They were down real hard on the open, and then they regained a lot of that. So we're not real sure. For once, we're at a point where most of your analysts are saying that your cattle contracts have been oversold. So maybe if we see a little juke and jive in the market, we might bounce back out of it, but that remains to be seen. Let's look at the board for Monday. June live cattle futures down $1.15 at 112.27. August was down just 75 cents at 108.40. Your May feeder cattle contracts down $1.12 at 136.02, and August down $2.02 at 144.35. And we talked on the last visit. I tell you what, these yearling feeder cattle and the fat cattle that are in the feedlots, and for that part, even your calves that the guys have just turned out, are worth a lot less than they were just a couple of weeks ago. Over $100 for most all weights in over 500 pounds, and you get to count them out there, and you figure that's a $100 bill for each one. That kind of makes a guy get down in the doldrums a little bit. But let's look at the weighted average on last week's fat cattle trade in your 5-area feeding region, 128,900 head. And you think, finally, we had some nice volume there. We sold several cattle in the 5-area feeding region, negotiated, but still did not reach year-ago levels. A year ago, the same week, 144,000. So just only a couple of weeks out of the calendar year so far that we've been able to sell as many cattle negotiated cash in the 5-area feeding region as we did last year. So that 80% concentration is moving a whole lot more to 85% so far this year. But let's look at your weighted average prices. On live steers, you had a range in price from 121 all the way up to 128. Now that 128 was not available to very many people, but mostly it was 121 to 124. A lot of 123 in the southern plains, you couldn't have got that late. So a lot of 124 in the northern plains, you couldn't have got that late up there either. But on your 5-area feeding region, live steer weighted average 123.76. That was $2.93 lower than the same figure a week earlier. Look at your dress steers. They had a wide range in price from $190 all the way up to $201. We saw some $2 flat early in the week, and then it just kept slipping away. A lot of 196 there middle of the week. But on your dress steers, weighted average 5-area feeding region, 198.92. That was down $5.66. That's a huge drop. And losing a lot of their premium up there in the northern plains, despite that miserable winter with all the loss they had up there all through the middle of the winter through early spring. But nationwide, your negotiated cash Fat cattle sales were 150,200 head, and 33% of those, or just under 50,000 of them, were for the 15 to 30 day delivery. Starting to see that step up a little bit more, as we're going to run into a lot of pressure here with a lot of market ready cattle coming up on the show list as we work into the summer months. And it looks like the Packers are really going to play hardball, as if they aren't known for that anyway. Bill Bullard and RCAF and some of their associates may have something to say about that as we work through that class action suit that they're getting started with. But you look at the summer contracts. Now, we know we're going to have a lot of cattle on the show list, going to have a lot of cattle market ready as we work into the summer months. Well, if you think the Packers are going to lay back and say, oh, well, there's just be plenty of cattle to choose from, we'll just negotiate on that cattle. No, that they work the opposite way. They like to get as many cattle in the hands, and we know they got a lot of nervous sellers, so they get as many cattle in their hands as they can, and then they won't buy hardly anything on the negotiated cash market and work all their formulas and everything that much lower. And like I always said, whenever they see a cattle feeder drowned, and instead of lending him a hand, they put their boot right on his forehead and push down. But you look at the summer contracts already to date, your contracts for June delivery are up 22,000 head compared to a year ago. July delivery, they're up 54,000 head compared to a year ago already. And your August contracts already are up 69,000 compared to what they ended up being a year ago. And so you know what they're going to do. They're really going to get tough on this. But like I said, something may pan out in that deal, that class action suit. But let's look at your feeder cattle markets. Your real-time index on Cattle Market Central, late in the day on Monday, sitting at 138.77. First time we've dropped under 140 on that in not quite a month. It seems like the feeder market's been better than that, but it just all of a sudden got really, really good there in April. But we started in April, not far from where we're at right now. But that 138.77 down $1.35 compared to the end of last week on the late week sales. But look at your big markets, and there weren't very many big markets. I tell you what, these sellers are scared. We should be seeing some of these early graze out wheat cattle start coming off in the next few weeks, but none of them wanted to come to town very bad this week, knowing that the market's going to be down. Now, the market may be down every week until they bring them, but you can always hold out hope you're going to bring them on an up market, but it still might not be as high as where we were when it started down. But Oklahoma National Stockyards in Oklahoma City, just 5,000 head for them, be a light run. Feeder steers steady to $4 lower. Feeder heifers $1 to $3 lower. Steer calves steady to $2 lower, and heifer calves mostly steady. Joplin Regional Stockyards only 3,200 head for them. That'd be a yawner for them. $3 to $7 lower. Not many of your markets up in the northern plains, Nebraska and Iowa, they were on their off week, because most of those have gone to every other week now. Just not very many big sales around. I tell you what, there was, when I went through Cattle Market Central and just pulled the load lots of steers out, just hardly anything to quote there. Just a lot of small deals, a lot of tail enders bringing cattle in, and maybe didn't realize how tough it was going to be. They might have got a shocker when they got their check up at the window when they're at the end of the sale. But it's tough around, and your receipts, it's kind of showed that as people were wary to kind of sell, and we haven't got to the point where now yet where lighter receipts are going to help the market so much, as everybody's pretty much full up everywhere, and most of your guys that were really hungry to get cattle turned out have already bought their stocker cattle. So we can have lighter receipts, and it's not really going to help the market too much. Callaway Livestock Center in Kingdom City, Missouri, 2,300 head up there. The market was mostly $4 to $8 lower on all classes there. But I only have one really respectable, impressive quote to give you. Comes out of Lexington, Kentucky, the head base there of Bluegrass Stockyards. And unlike Louisville, Lexington kind of knows what's going on over there. They know how to sell cattle. They know how to merchandise them. And they also know that the first horse to cross the finish line wins the horse race. But Bluegrass Stockyards in Lexington had some fancy black Sim Angus steers in there. 96 of them weighed 510 pounds at 192 and a quarter. You didn't know they could still get that for them, even out east of the Mississippi River. That's your feeder flash for Tuesday.